Welcome to another Vivid Groves Commander Deck Tech featuring Nekusar the Mindrazer. He has 2, a blue, a black, and a red, for a legendary zombie wizard. At the beginning of each player's draw step, the player draws an additional card. And whenever an opponent, the keyword is opponent, draws a card, Nekusar deals 1 damage to that player. So he's out in play, every draw phase, opponent gets 2 damage. So that's pretty nice. So this deck is kind of built around incremental damage to your opponent, either through drawing cards or some other things. I'm running 37 lands currently. Mostly a black-blue based deck with some red support cards. Various basic lands over here on the right. I just run snow lands because it's easy to search up snow. Various other non-basic lands that I own. A bunch of dual lands, a couple tri-lands, a Reliquary Tower, Command Tower. Otherwise, it's just some various dual lands that I own. Next, going for 1-drops. I'll start with Keteric Parasite. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, deal 1 damage to that player. So it's kind of like an Underworld Dreams or additional Nekusar on a little guy. Progenitus and Graveyard Hate, Mana Rock, Arcane Denial. Don't have too many counter spells in this deck. Actually, this is my only one. Counter spell. Controller draws up to 2 cards during the next current upkeep, and you can draw a card. So it counters a spell, but forces an opponent to draw a card, or gives them the option to draw cards. So if you have Nekusar out, you can get damage. Liliana's Caress. Opponent discards card, they lose 2 life. So if they're drawing too many cards, discard hopefully. Fever Convulsions. It's kind of like a little pet card of mine from Tempest. 2 black for an enchantment. Pay 2 and 2 black, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. It's an enchantment that stays in play, and you can slowly trick creatures, especially in the late game. Play this, and you can just cut their creatures down. You keep replaying if you have all this extra mana. Invulnerable Garden plays with no maximum hand size. Beginning of each player's draw step, the player draws an additional card and discards a card. So no maximum hand size, yeah, it's kind of bad, but also force them to discard and draw. Mana Rock, Howling Mine. Everybody draws a card. Mana Rock, Mana Rock, and Mana Rock. Alright, Rhystic Study. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, they have to pay 1 or I draw a card, or can't draw a card. So it's just a way to get some card advantage. Capsize. I have a couple bounce effects. This is kind of like a standard bounce effect for Commander. It costs 6 to use it again and again with buyback, but it kind of answers everything. I use it more as just a one-time use than anything else. Dictate a Crucifix, Howling Mine, but this is a flash enchantment now. Megrum, like Liliana's Caress. Whenever an opponent discards a card, deal 2 damage to that player. This one deals damage, and Liliana's Caress is loss of life. That's slightly important, but not really. Alright, so I was talking about elemental damage to their opponents. Retreat to Hagra is mostly for the second effect. Each opponent loses 1 life and gain 1 life. So again, incrementally killing your opponents. I have a couple Silver Bullets to answer some creatures. Ash to Ashes can exile 2 non-fire creatures. I like the exiling thing. It deals 5 damage to you, but you have 40 life in Commander, so it's not too bad. Here's Downfall. There's always those pesky planeswalkers or creatures, so it's just an answer for that. Friction Arena, draw some more cards for me. Ruinous Path, same as Hero's Downfall. This is just a sorcery, and you can also awaken it if you want to. Underworld Dreams, when an opponent draws a card, deals 1 damage to that player. Chaos Warp, again, kind of answer anything. Shuffle a permanent into their deck and reveal a top card. It's a permanent to get in the battlefield, otherwise, nothing. Ashiok, just one of my planeswalkers in here. I don't have too many creatures, so I'll put planeswalkers, just exile some things, and you can get some pesky stuff out of the opponent's deck. And you can play it if you want to in the future. It's pretty nice. Dak Faden. Mostly in Commander, people play some powerful Mana Rocks. So his second ability is what primarily used for is gain control of an artifact permanently. But his other ability can force people to draw cards and discard. So depending on what enchantments you have out, you can really start annoying people. And a couple Mana Rocks. Metamorph copies anything, basically, creatures or artifacts, so it's a good little tool. Frozen Ether, this card is fun, if it's working properly online. Artifact creatures and lands your opponents play enter the battlefield tapped. So they get really slowed down once you play this, especially if you're on the play at the beginning. Play this at turn 3, your opponents basically are a turn behind forever. Jace can shrink large armies coming at you, draw some cards. Pretty nice. If you ever get to Emblem off, you can get like 4 cards for free. It's pretty nice. Jace the Mind Sculptor, drawing cards, bouncing things, most people are used for. I drafted it, so I didn't go out and buy it, in case you were wondering. Fate Unraveler, similar to the Kid Parasite and Nekusar, and Unroll Dreams. Whenever an opponent draws a card, deals 1 damage to that player. Languish, just a Wrath effect. Ether Sting, this is just an annoying card to play. Whenever an opponent casts a creature spell, deals 1 damage to that player. Again, incremental damage. Ether Flash, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to it. So if your opponent plays one of those decks where they make a whole bunch of tokens over and over again, basically just gets rid of those. Whispering Madness, each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest cards discarded this way. So it's one of my Wheel of Fortune effects I have. I don't own Wheel of Fortune or the other Wheel of Fortune type effects, so I have this instead. Cycle Vision, beginning of each player draw step, draw additional card, and whenever a player draws a card, deals 1 damage to that player. So yes, I would feel the effects too, but it's another Howling Mine that also deals the damage to the opponent. Otherworldly Atlas, put a charge counter on it, and tap it for each player, draw a card, and then charge counters on it, so you can make people draw a bunch of cards. Tap Freeze Puzzle Box. This card is really annoying. Each player's draw step, player draws cards, puts that card from his hand on the bottom of the library, and draws that many cards. So depending on what cards they have and what I have in play, drawing cards, Tap Freeze Puzzle Box can be really annoying for him. And a Mana Rock. Aether Spout, getting rid of those annoying untargetable creatures or indestructible creatures that are coming at you. Evacuation, similar to Aether Spout, basically gets rid of all the creatures on board, have to recast them or slow down. Future Sight, it's just more card advantage for me. So if you notice the sub-theme, I have enchantments out. Another Jace, just some card draw. Exquisite Blood, when an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So if I'm nickel and diming the opponents, I can gain some life. Obnixless, so I'm drawing cards, destroying creatures. What else do you want? Painful Quandary. When an opponent casts a spell, the player loses 5 life, or he or she discards a card. So it's a very annoying card to play against. Try to kill it, you're still going to be behind. Palace Siege, again going with the sub-theme of nickel and diming. So I go for dragons mostly. Upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. It's pretty nice. Polluted Bond, whenever land enters the battlefield under opponent's control, lose 2 life, I gain 2 life. Sanguine Bond, whenever I gain life, opponents lose that much life, so it kind of goes with the other sub-theme there. And Subversion, being my upkeep, each opponent loses 1, I gain that much life. Memory Jar, this is another kind of wheel effect, make people draw. And Psychosis Crawler, this goes in almost everybody's draw deck. So, Consecrated Sphinx, draw a bunch of cards. Reality Strobe, this is my other bounce effect. It's kind of reusable, but every 3 turns, so it's less annoying than Capsize, but it's also kind of free to use. Recurring Insight, draw a bunch of cards, twice. Ingurik's Wake, destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. So this is a nice reset button. If you notice, I don't have many creatures. Diluvian Primordial, enter the battlefield, each opponent get an instant sorcery from the graveyard and I can cast it. It makes for some fun games. And then Mizzet, mostly for his middle ability there. Whenever I draw a card, deals 1 damage to something. So if you notice a bunch of card drawing here. Starstorm, this is kind of like an instant wrath for me. Deals X damage to each creature. I can also cycle it if I really need to. Blackstone Zenith, again, there's a lot of indestructible and targetable creatures in here, so it's just a way to slowly trip those creatures down. And Prosperity, each player draws X cards. Alright, so that's Nekusar deck. Come back and look at the other videos, see how it does in 1-on-1 and 4-player.